Hello, everyone. I am Esmé, and I'm going to introduce Charlene Stevens. Charlene Stevens earned a BA in art history at UCLA before studying art education and photography at CSULA and film and photographic studies at the University of Leiden. Upon her return to the United States, Ms. Stevens founded a digital art publication, Arcade Project, in 2016. Last year, she launched a nomadic contemporary art gallery, Arcade Project Curatorial, during the height of the pandemic. Ms. Stevens is a contributor at hyperallergic.com, Thameur Magazine, and the Art newspaper. Ms. Stevens lives and works in New York. Charlene.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody from African Galleries Now, and I'm going to start with Selma Feriani. Selma Feriani is founder and director of Selma Feriani Gallery, established in 2003 and 13 in Tunis. It represents artists from the MENA region around the globe. Over the past years, the gallery has set up critically and publicly successful exhibitions, installed public interventions internationally, and participated in the 2015 and 2017 Venice Biennale. Selma Feriani Gallery aims to discover exceptional young artists and support their career development over the long run. Valerie Kabov is the co-founder in 2009 and director of First Floor Gallery in Harare, Zimbabwe, its leading independent international gallery. She is also the editor-at-large of Art Africa magazine, as well as co-founder of African Art Galleries Association and the Emerging Painting Invitational. The Pan-African Emerging Painting Prize, an initiative of the African Arts Gallery Association. As a researcher, writer, and cultural advocate, Valerie is focused on the welfare of artists, economic sustainability in contemporary African art sectors, projects implementing decolonial cultural policies, Africa-driven narratives of contemporary art on the continent, and relevance of culture and cultural self-esteem of development, politics, and economics. Valerie holds a master's in curatorship and modern art from University of Sydney, as well as degrees in law and economics from University of Melbourne. Gresham Tapiwa Nyaude was born in Harare, Zimbabwe. I was born in Mbare, Harare, and Zimbabwe's most vibrant and notorious ghetto. Nyaude works against the sweeping identity which has been defined for Zimbabweans as the voice of the state and domestic and international media. His images oscillated between figuration, abstraction, and hallucination, drawing from the restless energy of his neighborhood and its youth. In a country where more than 70% of the population is under the age of 30, living on the edge between survival and chaos has been a call to poetry, swinging between brutal and sentimental, but also invariably cynical and satirical. His gesturally rendered effigies of proverbs and poignant vernacular idioms defy characterization other than the bursting drive to gain human dignity and quality of life that frequently appears beyond the reach of dreams. Thameur Mejri is from Tunis, and he investigates the complexities of human existence in identifying parallels between paradoxical ideas of violence, innocence, guilt, and shame. The human figure acts as a central element throughout his compositions. The rigorous manner in which Mejri places the figure onto the canvas reflects the relationship between painting and painter. He has exhibited widely, including the 13th Cairo Biennial, the Biennial of Contemporary African Art Dakar, the Center of Contemporary Art Detroit, and the New York International Independent Film Festival, New York. And he lives and works in Nablus, Tunisia. Thank you, everyone. I know that was a lot of introductions. We have a lot of great talent, and I think we are going to start with So we're going to start with Thameur's art, and
Charlene, just sorry to interrupt. Remember, we're going to chat a little bit about the African Art Galleries.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it, because I'm so sorry. So yeah, what is African Galleries now, and the African and this is an event that's happening like right now currently. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So African Art Galleries Association was founded in 2016 as a kind of a really prescient group because of emerging African galleries, because you need to understand that while Africa is the largest continent in the world, with 54 countries, the number of internationally practicing art galleries is not very large, and often we are isolated in our own context. So in 2016, a number of galleries decided to join together to start sharing know-how, support each other emotionally and professionally in the way we engage with the art industry, and from the position of together we're stronger. So that collaboration is a greater good. And of course, this became really, really significant over the last 12 months, because the idea of collaboration and joining resources has now resonates globally in the art world. So we've now been around for 2015 and since 2016, and it's an association that is growing, but also we collaborate formally and informally. So formally, we have two projects. One of them is the Emerging Painting Invitational, which is the Pan-African Emerging Painting Prize, which we started in 2019 and is now going to be in its third edition this year. And then the second project that we started together is African Galleries Now, which is the second edition of which is happening right now, and that's a collaboration with Artsy. And it's an online fair in which all the members that want to participate in the fair, present 4 artists and 4 works from each artist. It's kind of an idea of a discovery, but also from the idea of we get to present the very best that we can offer, but also from the idea of defying expectations of what people think they want to think of what African contemporary art is. And I think maybe Selma can say a little bit more about that, and also about more informal collaborations that the association has been doing.
Oh, Selma?
Yeah, thanks, Valerie. Being based in Tunisia, in North Africa, we felt the need to create more bridges with the continent. And with Valerie, we discussed that during confinement, actually, through few Zoom calls. And then we decided to create this exchange of a residency program between both spaces. We do have the gallery space in Tunis, and we also have an artist studio, which we call L'Atelier, where artists are invited to spend time, produce works that are related to the development of their practice, but also to discover a new city, another community, and develop a new body of work that we will be able to present at the gallery. Gresham will be our guest in October, so he'll be coming to spend a few weeks. We have also a space where they can stay, which is next to the gallery, and go every day to work in the atelier, interact with artists we represent that are based in Tunis too, as well as meet other people or other researchers or curators they're interested to exchange with.
And thanks very much, Selma. And it's great to have Gresham here also in this conversation. But one of the other things, and this is just an example of some of the things that have become possible because of the association, I mean, we other projects that have happened is, for instance, Circle Gallery in Nairobi has hosted different fellow gallerists to showcase different art scenes across the continent. We developed a project for Circle Art Gallery, which was called Harare Contemporary. They did a show called Addis Contemporary. They've done different countries, and these collaborations are only possible with the logistic support and strong relationships and trust that has evolved through the association. I mean, and we like also share information about partners and know-how, a lot of things that help us that help us in a very, the art world is not an easy environment. It can be a tough place, and it also can be a place where people don't share and don't trust. So to have a supportive network where you can ask for advice and have, be confident that people will support you is also a really, really valuable thing.
And I've only, as an American, I've mostly experienced, I've seen the rise of African galleries, when experiencing the fairs, but it's still, there's a lot of, like, when I see like large international fairs such as 154, it's still, it's a lot of African art, but American and European galleries. And I wanted to ask about just the rise of the fine art and gallery scene, all over Africa, and just like this panel already, and this group already represents, since we have 54 countries, it's a whole continent, it's like a big diversity of it. But what have you found it? Because it's like also you have like the British and the French, you have, the old, the old colonial powers that really still have, a hold on the African art world. And how is this gallery, association, how have you seen it build? How have you seen this grow since you've created this organization, and what are the goals with?
So there's two parts to this question. So one to answer is, I think you're making an extremely good point. One of the goals of this association is to highlight the importance of African galleries that work with African artists, and that is the point of African Galleries Now as an online fair. We want people to know that not only is it important to support African contemporary art, but it's also important to support galleries working in Africa, because we're building infrastructure, we're building the ecologies of the art world. And I think Selma can speak to that, because Selma used to have a gallery in London, and then she moved back to Tunis, and maybe you can actually say exactly like some of the things that you've done since coming back.
Yes, so we first opened in London indeed, and in 2013 I felt the need to go back home to Tunis and start a contemporary art gallery and be closer to the artists who are based in the region, mainly in North Africa, I would say. I felt that need because the infrastructure for the development of an art market for contemporary art is inexistent. It's very, very small. We don't have any national museum for contemporary art, and the help of the government is inexistent. So it's only private initiatives, so few foundations and a few galleries that are there to create a market, but also to support artists and help them develop their practice, as well as show the work outside the country. So we are now also having a space in Cromwell Place in London, where I am right now, actually. And that's also to recreate the link with Europe, with works being produced in the continent. So it's also something. It's also a very interesting approach, because we are trying to create our local market, but also trying to develop stronger works coming out from the region and presenting the work also internationally. Obviously, it's a lot of work because we play different roles. Being a gallerist in Tunisia is not like being a gallerist in London. We play the role of like we create these residency programs. We help in production. We help in developing public programs. Schools, art schools also come to visit us regularly, because that's where they can see contemporary production, contemporary art production. So it is also very interesting for me to do that. And but also it's very important to be to have this link with Europe or the US. I mean, we're still not that strong with the US market, but we hope we can create that link too.
So, I mean, I just wanted to add, Charlene, that, I mean, that kind of idealism that Selma is speaking to, that is very common across the continent, and it's not super common in the way that, say, European or Western galleries necessarily operate when they work with African artists, you see. And this is also one of the reasons we really think collectors need to, especially collectors who are ethical and who are interested in supporting artists meaningfully, they need to be conscious of the galleries that they work with as well, you know. And it's because that balance has to shift. It's also, the other thing is the kind of art you were asking about, the kind of art that is being produced, and that's a complicated question. And I think you know, we've got two artists who are really strong exemplars of art that is, you know, that has authentic connection to the continent, that has not changed and does not present an alternative face that supports a Western, I guess, a Western gaze on Africa. Okay, and I think that is also really important, because a gallery that is based in Africa can recognize authentic voices rather than voices that, you know, that are geared towards answering whatever is, you know, fashionable in the market, and that, you know, the Western world likes to believe about Africa, rather than what Africa is, you know. So,
and I think we need more of an African gaze, definitely. And it just from what I'm getting from, you know, you and Selma is, you know, you're not only selling art, you know, and making money for yourself with artists, but you're building an art world, like in your own cities, like your major. It's just like you're creating this ecosystem by supporting art education, also supporting emerging artists, you know, through residencies and emerging artist competitions. And also being part of a community, you know, makes a big difference.
Definitely. And maybe this is a really good opportunity to chat to the artists, because, you know, that's what it's all about.
So, I mean, who would like to, for example, for the artists, I think let's talk about, how about the big general word I used, the African gaze. Like, what would you, what would you consider the African gaze, and how is that reflected, you know, in your work?
Should I start first, or?
Sure. Please.
Okay. Yeah, the image is on the screen. Let's
okay.
do it.
So I have to start first. Sorry. Yeah. So I think as an African artist or North African artist, from the start, as an artist, to show our work in the international scene, we start with obstacles, not with advantages. The political, obstacles like the market want to see us in a way, in a certain way. It's like he's dictating sometimes the tendency, or what should an African artist do, or a North African artist paint, or what the subject he should speak about. And I'm speaking not about African galleries that are based in Africa or in North Africa. I'm speaking about the galleries that are based in London, for example, or Paris, or United States, or something like this, or in the Western, the Western galleries. So, I faced that problem when I worked with the gallery in London, and I won't say the name, it's in 2017, and I had problems in that, he wanted to dictate sometimes the subject, because I'm an artist coming from Africa, so I have to have some aesthetics in my works that should be seen as African, and I felt that it's really a colonialist approach of art and artists. And I think our mission and our objective is to free ourselves from that viewing artists like this, coming from Africa. We have to free ourselves from that, and we have to speak about everything, all the subjects, and we are still based in our country, of course. So the context is Africa and North Africa and the region. So anyway, it will be always an African art and an African expression, or an African attitude, or a reaction to some events that can be local or also global events. We have the right also as African and as African artists to speak about some global issues also. And I felt that there is still a lot of issues with our how to market ourselves and how to present ourselves as African arts. I did many art fairs like 154, ACA Art Fair, and I was confronted with the audiences, with the galleries, with the curators. So there's always that kind of question, and as African, how you feel about this and how you feel about that. And it's like they want always to put you in a corner and try to dictate you in a way how to express yourself through your art. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit extreme, or maybe it's a little bit harsh. But this is the reality. I felt, and I'm still feeling. When I travel with my art and to present myself in events presenting African arts, and this is my experience.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting, watching people, because it should be people being interested in on how you see the world, not trying to make you a part of their narrative. And the colonial narrative is strong.
Yes.
Where a European gallery can say, well, I don't, this isn't what I think Tunisian is, so, yes. There's a lot of, there's an audacity to it. And I experienced a different thing being Black in America, but it's still part of this colonial narrative where, where you're not, where you're still not centered you're still not centered in the story, even when other people are looking at your own art. Yes.
It's like you have to speak about many things that sometimes does not concern you personally, as a person, also as an artist, you are a person also. You have your own story also, and you have the right also to tell your own story without really having on your shoulders all the political history and heritage and all that stuff. And I leave my
No,
discussion
that's a
on my
good
friend.
point. Thank you. And
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yes, I totally agree with Thameur, like what he's saying for me, but I mean, personally for me, the African gaze is, for me, it starts from the educational level, the art education, whereby, like for instance, in Harare, with like local, like one art school, which is not a good school, like it just gives you like a national certificate and stuff. And most of the stuff that you are taught there is Western material, and there's no much African references or books that teach you from like what's from the continent. So you have like let's say 3 years to 4 years of studying that, and after finish studying that, you have to sort of like break away and find your own voice and speak in your own terms as an African artist. And that takes another 4 years to forget. And for me, that so, but yeah, but and to find that, I mean, so artists will have this pressure whereby after graduation they were in these fairs already, and there are galleries like pushing them and stuff. So they will sort of like start to present themselves like in a certain way whereby what they've learned in a certain like Western culture is what they are going to produce. Like there's these fairs, like they've got like 3 fairs in London, New York, or whatever, and the pressure from the galleries is intense, and you have to produce, and so you don't have really, like you end up not speaking like your really own story with these pressures, and
But not at first floor.
no, not at first floor, like not at first floor, like yeah. But I mean, so yeah, the other thing as well is like what you were saying, like to start as an African artist, you start with obstacles. Like there's no materials, like proper art materials on the continent. You have to really fight for that, to get that. Like, so it's one of the problems whereby you need to get sales, and for you to get sales, you have to bend for the markets, which is really a problem. But yeah, I've been like I've got I'm with a gallery which is dedicated to present like my own story in my own authentic way. Yeah.
I'm not forcing him to say this. There's no gun to his head. And I'm like, no, but one of the things that I was going to say, Charlene, is that one of the foundational positions of our gallery has been the idea of authenticity and giving a space. I mean, we were founded as an experimental space. So the idea was to give voice to artists and create a freedom from market pressures so that they didn't need to feel the need to conform. And the other really interesting thing, and Thameur has alluded to it, is the idea that you need to have agency and speak your own story that doesn't have to, speak to politics. You shouldn't have to prove your Africanness to anyone, because everything that you do is already done by an African. So
this is my point.
You have to convince anyone of anything else, and if they're not convinced, that's their problem. That is complete. It doesn't have to be a gaze of anything. It's agency, right? And that kind of idea of agency is really crucial to developing a vision as an artist. So it's just like, and you have to fight for it. You really, as an African artist, you have to fight for it.
But you guys everybody here is you're in an exciting period of art on the African continent, because I mean, you are actually building an art world. Like with when we're talking about the problems with education, as you discover more talent, as that talent, becomes more successful, and then some of those people become the teachers. And
you would imagine there aren't enough teaching institutions of quality. That's not, you would imagine that's you come from a world with infrastructure, You know, and Selma has alluded to the fact that we come from a world without infrastructure. So we are building the infrastructure.
Right.
So for us to have quality educational institutions, we kind of have to make them ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're building this from the ground up. I mean, this is amazing.
It's very exciting, but it's also extremely difficult.
Yeah, and it must be frustrating because, like, also a lot of these results and rewards might not be for a generation.
Yeah, and
but there's another generation that you're preparing for that, you know, for one thing, will learn, you know, about more African art when they're learning, you know, when they're learning about art, where, you know, there will be more of an infrastructure and people will be giving back, but also just building the collector base, you know, as middle classes are growing, as more people, you know, as more people are building wealth, you know, just every part of the art world, from the collector to, you know, to the art school, to how, I think there'll be a lifting of this, you know, colonial narrative, where, because it really needs to be, you know, I mean, just be, you know, right now, you know, dealing with European galleries, you know, and being pressured to conform to the taste of European collectors, you know, that might be, you know, something that's a problem to pass to the next generation, because there will be this huge, you know, there'll be more collectors locally. And as you're saying right now that in Tunisia, there isn't the biggest collector base or something?
I think we have a lot of collectors in Tunisia, some that lives in Tunisia and are based in Tunisia, and others that living in Europe or in the United States or in the MENA region, and also speaking about building something in locally. And this was what we are doing. I'm speaking about my generation of artists, you know, the one who have from 35 to 40, over 40 a little bit. We are building really the path for the younger generation, and how to succeed and how to be part of the international art scene, and how to show your work outside the country, and how to participate in art fairs. And with Selma also, we are really working on this, you know, how to expand our visibility. And for the student in the fine arts, and for the young generation, we are like giving them the blueprint, you know, to how to do that, you know, because my generation is the first in Tunisia who really worked with European galleries, did the art fairs. Some did the Venice Biennale, are part of many prestigious collections and foundations and museums, and working on exhibition with museums and foundation and institutions. So because the generation before us, they didn't really give us the blueprint and how to do that, because they didn't succeed really in that. You know, they made the resistance in showing their work outside the local market. But us, with internet and with the travel, and now with all the boundaries are fell down. With internet, we really crossed that the borders, and we are now part of the international also art scene and the African art scene, and we do art fairs and big shows, and so there's something is building in the region, I think, and the future will be better than now, of course.
And I thought, let's like start talking about the art, because also I love like this, the work from both of you, and you know, I just love what's happening. You know, of course, like African contemporary art is hot, and just I don't know, Selma, do you want to like introduce maybe because we're starting with Thameur or
Yes, sure. Yeah, we selected these new works that Thameur just completed. So we found in this new series certain constants of Mejri's work, and in particular his attention to the human body that you can recognize in every drawing and painting, which he charges, I think, with a lot of powerful political interpretation, but also a lot of personal stories and autobiographical messages. So he's, I mean, can we go to the next maybe slide so we can have an idea about, yeah. So some of the elements also go back to his childhood, where he's taking some elements that come back to these beautiful drawings. So some are made on paper and others on canvas. The canvas works also could be more colorful, where he adds a lot of colors and colors. I mean, when you see it, you see some violence, but at the same time, a lot of element gives a very poetic scenography to the painting we're looking at. And for me, he composes these paintings and drawing as if he was a filmmaker, because there is a lot of action, and there is always something happening in these drawings. They are in a movement, they're not static. And I think Thameur can maybe add more concept to the work.
Yes, my main concern when I work is how to deconstruct the devices we create each day as a human being to control each other and to exert power on each other. You know, this is our nature. We have the tendency to control the other. You know, and I'm just questioning. You know, the role of the artist is not to give the good answer. No, is to ask the right question. You know, I'm not giving answers or formulas or and like building a narration, and through that narration, with different objects coming from my childhood, my space, everyday life, and also object coming from war, the crisis in Tunisia, the global crisis, all that stuff. And with that scenography and creating that system to deactivate that big device of power, you know, and to try to deconstruct it and to understand why this happening, and everything is turning around the human body, and it's logic that everything goes and come back to the human body. You know, we live through our body and we die through our body. So, and we exert power and violence, especially on our body. And now through the global crisis of COVID, and we understood more that the human body is very important, you know, and if you want to control humanity, you have to control their bodies and their freedom as an organism. And also there's a personal layer also in my work, you know, different layers, political and also personal and philosophical layer. And the personal one is I'm still connected with my childhood and with anecdotes from my childhood that maybe it's like me confronting my traumas, you know, when I was a child, and some stuff happened and all that violence we hide inside, and we keep like a monster, you know, hidden and sleeping through all the years, and then through painting and through the process of painting and drawing, it comes to life, and it's like an exorcism of that, you know. Yes.
I'm curious. When I'm looking at this work, and there, you know, and you have the body, and you have like, and it's fragmented. There are parts, you know, everywhere. And are there is there any kind of any symbolism behind specific body parts? Like, is there something that a hand or arm means more than? Are there any? Is there anything that corresponds to certain body parts in your compositions?
Yes, and I took that from the Italian philosopher Giorgio Agamben. He spoke about.
Oh, I love Giorgio Agamben.
Of course, he's one of my favorite thinker and philosopher.
Soccer is like one of my favorite.
Yes, me too. I read it many times. So he speak about gestuality and the need to commandment and how through body gestures we express our need to have power over the other or to have advantage over the other. Even if we speak a normal conversation with our hand and our posture, the posture we take, we show our inner self and our inner need to take advantage and to control and to dominate and even to destroy the other, So in my painting and my drawing, I try to deactivate that in putting the figure in an absurd movement, a movement without any meaning. So with that movement without any meaning, I try to deactivate that gesture of commandment and gesture of violence and that's why you have a lot of hand movement and feet movement, and also to put the figure in an unbalanced situation, because it's a little bit Hegelian also, because Hegel said that through imbalance and chaos emerge rationality and destiny and time, So it's a little bit all these thoughts going through my mind when I work, and this is how now I can describe the composition and why there's a lot of hands, and also I'm influenced by the medieval paintings, European paintings like Grunwald and all the crucifixions, because we in the School of Fine Art in Tunisia, we read about the Western art history. We don't teach us the African or Islamic or North African art history. We teach us European and Western art history. So the movement of the hands have a lot of symbolic in the Christian painting, and so I take all these influences and I make it mine, and I appropriate those stuff, and I made them mine to express a personal reaction and a personal subjective reaction to the world.
Oh, and I'm fascinated by just your painting style, the drawing part, thank you. The hour is running quickly. I do want to get to Valerie and Gresham. And could you tell us a little about what's going on? Because I was so happy with what both of the groups of work that came.
Like both Gresham and Thameur are very simpatico about bringing the personal and the political together, and I think for Gresham you see, and also incorporating gesture and drawing with painting, but in a very different way, right? So they're almost like ideologically on the same page, but then they find different approaches. So, and Gresham is always commenting on the political, and I think there's always like in my experience of working with Gresham over the last 10 years, it's always been incredible social commentary, but in a way that translates really easily, like while being incredibly local and personal response to whatever is happening in Zimbabwe right now. it's also very much a personal, like a commentary that translates very much to how people react to the relationship with power, manipulation, and also, and in a kind of resistance through humor, right? So I'll let Gresham speak a bit more about, I mean, I think humor plays a really huge role in his work, and he'll explain why.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. My work sort of draws from like proverbs and idioms, like particularly Shona proverbs. Sometimes I pick like now I started to pick like English proverbs that are sort of like of interest to me. But I mean, like right now, like in Zimbabwe, I think we are sort of like a small, we're a young country because we only got like our independence like 1980. So we are like 41 years old as a country right now. So there's a lot of things that needs to be like from the colonial era to be changed, and there's a lot of protest that goes on, and the system to sort of put that wheel in motion and changing all those things take quite a time. And so there's a lot of protests that happens within, but which is still sort of like illegal in my country. And looking back before colonial, like I see sort of like a similarity whereby like the Shona tribe, which I sort of like come from, they didn't like really protest directly. They used the same proverbs and idioms again to address certain issues. So I like to play with that. Like particularly for this series, I was talking about that sort of like Bible biblical phrase whereby they say, "See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil." And so that's sort of the thing whereby we are the transition we're going through right now in Zimbabwe, whereby sometimes you have to just like concentrate on what you're doing. You're not allowed to really speak, or if you're going to say something, say it in a very subtle way. So that's where my work comes into play. And the other thing is like I use a lot of symbolism, like the chair. I'm interested in the chair because for me it speaks about the throne. And one thing I try to address within throne, I address it on a political level and again on a social level, whereby I speak about like if I look at a chair, like back in my household, like when I was a kid, who used to sit there and who was not supposed to sit there. There's that as well, and it comes with sort of like position and power for who sits where and who sits where. So sometimes it comes because of age. You are allowed to sit, or because age always comes with wisdom and stuff. You are allowed to sit in a certain place or assume a certain position or role. So I always play with the chair. Sometimes my chairs are sort of like crippled because I always question really like the role of a position of what if like if someone, let's say someone is sort of like old, is he still capable as he was when he was in his mid-30s or now he's in his, so there's always these sort of like things that I'm playing with in my work. And yeah, I try to, so the other thing about this body of work, I like to call it like the gray space where there's a lot of uncertainty, like you don't know, because I'm questioning the role of the chair, and so there are certain layers, because the other thing about why I use proverbs and idioms, they have got a certain way to hide. You are saying something but you're not saying it directly. So I try again is to come and sort of like hide my message or my.
So what would be give an example of a proverb that you might be referring to?
Yeah, like for example, this one. Like what is the proverb?
Oh, so this one, this is it's sort of like it's sort of like a particular popular phrase in Zimbabwe, whereby you like you are going, you're up to nuisance, and it's called Chachima. It simply translates to whatever you're doing which is wrong, you are going to pay for it. So yeah, like
I think
so yeah,
it's like you reap what you sow.
Yeah, reap what you sow type of thing. So that's yeah. That so it works in this certain way, but I like to be playful as much as I can as well, because I mean like personally, that's I'm not the type of person who who's sort of like when I'm in trouble, I'm rigid. I try to sort of like resolve my issues in a soft way. So I mean, my color tones usual. People say, "Ah, you're a soft paint." I don't know much about that, but I try to be much playful as I can with my work. Yeah, and the other thing is like you see the head figures, most of them they don't have eyes because there we go again whereby we say like the less you see the better you are, you know. So I mean
or see no evil, like the
But
yeah,
but it's also more like the safer you are. It's safety is like, where you look at what, stay in your lane. It's a sort of
okay.
yeah, it's very political, like where you're told, like don't look right, don't look left, look where you're supposed
Yeah,
to.
because I mean, most of the people, when they look at my work, like locally, when they see the chair, they sort of go straight to like I'm sort of like speaking about the political. I'm attacking the political powers, but as I try as much as I try as much as I can to address both factors. Because I think for me, I think as long as as long as I can figure out myself in a small household, like where I belong, or like if we cannot control a small household, there's no way we'll be able to control like a bigger like state or
Yeah, that yeah, that's
so,
yeah, from like the local to the global even, right?
So yeah, that's pretty much most of what I'm working on right now.
And it's I mean, when I see like the figures and the chairs, like it's almost, I don't know, it's you think like, combining, a figure with, an inanimate object, but it almost like makes them almost more human. For some, in my eyes, like there's some, I don't, I mean, I'm just like kind of fascinated about how I process it, because at first I look at it like, at first I think if you see a chair and then you imagine yourself sitting in it, then you go, okay, why can't I sit in it? And then you see what's, how, like for this one, there's definitely something you cannot plop down.
You have to sort of figure stuff out, like
yeah, it's like, like there's no way you're going
yeah, but I mean, there are layers, there's no straight way to get to it, but you have to, so you have to come up with your own sort of way, like if you see it like, okay, or what comes to you, so it picks your mind generally.
Yeah,
So,
but I think just imagining the difficulty of getting in the chair like just helps me see the tension in the piece for some reason. Because you have these red hands and they're like, and it's like kind of it has this forbidding pose.
yeah, like
it's like
throwing
it's
things
blocking,
away from me, like, yeah.
But it
Yeah,
has
so,
a lot of but it has a lot of tension to that. I mean, I feel it as the viewer.
yeah, I mean, because I'm addressing like really like strong and important issues to me, but I try to make it as like as playful as I can, like for me and the people around me, because I've got like a lot of people around me who really don't really understand what I'm doing, and I try to sort of like not really make it easy for them, but I try to make them sort of like relate to the imagery, to the language that I'm using. Because I'm mostly, sometimes I use like Shona titles so that they can quickly connect. And so for me, again, it saves the, like what Thameur was saying, whereby was in Zimbabwe, it's a total different issue whereby we don't have like domestic markets. And it goes back to educational, whereby our people need to learn to collect African art within Africa, from Africa. So that's there again, whereby if someone comes to see my work and reads the Shona title and he connects the work, they quickly connect. Yeah.
And also you were talking about the chair being a throne, right?
Yeah.
And I look at a throne as what a seat of power. So each one is like a relationship to power.
Yeah, I mean,
so like I'm looking at like this man, it just seems like, just that forbidding, there's no way to even access that seat. There's
I don't know if you've noticed, but they seem like the chairs seem crippled, like they're either missing legs and stuff. So there's always this thing about power whereby, they are always like sort of like nothing is for certain, or nothing is like 100%, or no one is in power who can say I can do it all, or I can,
Yeah, I mean, these are amazing, and I just like you can't sit there, but even if you did, it's fragile. So
that's a different proverb. That's a different proverb already, Charlie.
Yeah. And I guess we can open it to Q&A because we are hitting the end almost. Like an hour goes by so quickly, and you guys have so much to say. We can talk about this like forever because this is well, if you have a question, you can put something in the chat or in the reactions bar. You can raise your hand. And also, I just wanted to, this African Galleries Now show is currently on Artsy for how long?
And I think until the 27th of July, but you can just jump on artsy.com front page and it's under the fairs. You can just click through. There are 12 participating galleries with 4 artists each. So it's a very tight selection of works, some amazing works. We've got a gallery from Namibia, we've got galleries from Angola, obviously Tunisia and Zimbabwe, as well as South Africa, in Kenya and Uganda. I think, am I missing anyone at this stage? I'm trying to remember, but please forgive me if I've missed somebody, but so it's a really interesting, so we've got I think 15 countries represented in the fair. So it's always a really different cross-section of the continent that you will see if you visit the fair, and it's very educational as well as extremely, excellent value and great art.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just seeing a lot. I'm so happy just to see this work and this talk, but yeah, there's a lot to discover. There's like a lot of opportunities for collectors.
Definitely, and and we welcome everyone. I think that's it. I think Esmé is going to. Yeah, it's 1 minute to 1. So
yeah, Esmé, what are we doing? What is the time situation?
Well, it's 1 o'clock, so
okay. Well, I guess I'm going to thank everyone because wow. Thank everybody for joining us from the African continent. And we have a quick question. I think we can fit in one because we started a few minutes late. A quick question for Pefo Fatso Makwena and just to Graham. When thinking about proverbs, is rap music just as important as Shona proverbs?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because I think he's asking that is my friend, and we're listening to rap music together last week. But okay, yeah, because I think there are a lot of like Shona rap songs which like feeds from the same. Because I mean, like Shona it's a language whereby sort of like it's sort of like a visual language whereby everything like which is said like it's like a picture, like it's what can I say? It's sort of like
it's very visual. Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, I think I feel from both like people. What I may say to you is like I find I'm not only limited to proverbs that are sort of like from ancient, but I mean I love literature. So anything that is said, I try to visualize it and sort of like put it on a canvas. So I get my material anyway. I can.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, I'm curious if you like one day do a body of work and it starts like moving more into rap than proverbs. And just amazing work, both of you. And
Thank you.
yeah, we're going to.